You still wake up in cold sweating, remembering the Chad debacle of 2000 and the touchscreen voting machine debacle of 2004. Brace yourself. Our fourth story on the countdown, the first recount of 2008. According to Citizens for Legitimate Government, 81% of New Hampshire ballots were cast and counted on an optical scanning machine, not just one. 19% of votes were counted by hand. They produced different results. In the machine scan precincts, Hillary Clinton got 40% of the vote. In the hand count precincts, she got 35%, whereas Barack Obama in machine districts got 36% compared to 39% on the hand-counted paper ballots. Several bloggers pointing out, however, that most of the machines were in cities where Hillary Clinton had scored highly in pre-voting polling, whereas the hand counting was done mostly in rural areas where Barack Obama had polled high. And it needs to be noted that geographical patterns seem to hold up. Clinton won the areas closest to Boston for the most part. Obama won the Connecticut River Valley for the most part. But Dennis Kucinich, who not only got 1% of the vote in New Hampshire, wants to be absolutely certain the vote count was correct. He's paid $2,000 to start a recount process. His campaign says today it may fundraise to pay any additional expenses. Kucinich saying in a letter he does not expect his tally to change much, but he wants the recount in the interest of, quote, public confidence in the integrity of the election process. The New Hampshire Secretary of State granting his request with, quote, every confidence that the vote is accurate. Representative Rush Holt of New Jersey is sponsoring legislation to fix voting machine problems before the 2008 general election. He's been good enough to join us tonight. Thank you for your time, Congressman.
Keith, good to be with you.
Because New Hampshire used optical scanning machines, do they that actually have these paper ballots as evidence to recount on Congressman Kucinich's behalf? But more than 69,000 precincts across the country are using paperless electronic voting machines. What happens if and when there is some evident or at least seeming discrepancy in one of those elections in one of those 69,000 precincts?
Sure. Well, you've hit on the good news there, Keith. There may or may not have been irregularities in New Hampshire, but there are voter-verified paper ballots that can be counted. And so it's possible to do a recount. It's possible to do an audit. But if you're a voter from, say, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, or even my home state of New Jersey, you'll go into the primary with unverifiable elections. In other words, electronic counts for which there is no voter-verified record. And therefore, you can't do an audit, you can't do a recount. Any recount is meaningless because it just whatever's in the electronic memory is in the electronic memory, and that's what you'll get over and over again. So you can't really look at voters' intentions.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, well, anything of value should be auditable, and we know votes are valuable. Certainly campaigns spend many dollars per vote they hope to get. There have been occasions in history where votes have been bought and sold. To give voters the confidence that they deserve that their votes will be counted as they intended, there should be paper ballots, and in every election there should be an audit. Maybe not a full recount, but at least an audit to determine whether there's any systemic problem.
As you have proposed in legislation, which calls for money to allow states and precincts to switch back to paper ballots in time for November of this year. Is that the best bet, or is there instead some sort of methodology of establishing a national election standard?
Well, of course, the key is to have audits, and states can do that on their own. Now, many of us, in fact, almost a majority of us in the House of Representatives have had legislation pending for a year or two that would mandate standards for voter-verified paper ballots. Unfortunately, for various reasons, internal and external politics probably take too long to go into for the time we have. That's not going to be in place by November. So next week, I'm going to introduce legislation that would be an opt-in system so that any county that does the right thing, that implements voter-verified paper ballots and audits by November will be reimbursed for that. And that might provide enough incentive, along with citizens who are demanding this sort of thing, that many states will do it. Some states have already done it on their own. And of the 20 states that in whole or in part have unverifiable voting systems, maybe some of them, or we would hope many of them, will opt in under this system. I hope we'll be able to pass it quickly.
Indeed. Congressman Rush Holt of New Jersey, great thanks for coming in to Princeton
Good to be
tonight.
with you.
And have a good weekend, sir.